Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Hope you guys have been having a great evening so far. Hope you guys have been having a great Saturday and a great weekend. In this video, we're going to break down what looks to be a very active stretch of weather. Over the next really 5 to 6 days, there's going to be multiple days in that 5 to 6 day stretch where severe weather is going to occur. There's a severe weather going on right now from Arkansas all the way up to the southern sections of Wisconsin, where we have multiple severe thunderstorm warnings and even a couple tornado warnings ongoing right now. As I speak right now, I don't know of any confirmed tornadoes on the ground, but definitely continue to be weather aware in all those areas I just mentioned, as it will continue to be active overnight. But really, we're going to talk about tomorrow, we're going to talk about Monday, and then we're going to mention a couple days later next week, talking about Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah, that is pretty far out, but the Storm Prediction Center is confident that we are going to have a setup that's primed for severe weather for certain parts of the country. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I appreciate the amazing support, even in the somewhat slower times. I know most of my audience is in the Southeast and Deep South, but I really appreciate people tuning in regardless of where you're listening in from. It really means a lot. If you guys got anything that I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it and gives others an opportunity to do so too. You know, I put in the community post this afternoon that there was no deaths associated with a tornado in Andover, I almost said Kentucky, Andover, Kansas. So that is really good news. The bad news, though, that I found out a little bit later is it was 3 students from the University of Oklahoma that were actually chasing, and they didn't get killed from the actual tornado, but on the way back home, they got in a major car accident, and all 3 students, these are just kids, they all died. So it's really tragic news. It's kind of making the rounds. I'm sure you'll hear it on the news probably here in the next day or two if you haven't heard it already, but it's all over social media, especially in the weather community. So our thoughts and prayers all go out to that situation. I know I'll set a prayer and a little bit of more of a quiet time this afternoon. And so certainly thinking about those folks affected by the lost lives of just some kids, just some college kids. So you just never know. It's very dangerous chasing out there, especially on the way home when you're tired, you're worn out, you're driving over debris. A lot of times it's still storming. Trust me, you know, when I was driving home from Hurricane Ida, I wanted to get home so fast. So I was one of the first people to leave the area after the damage was done. And it was very dangerous, and I should have just held tight, but I was antsy to get home. And yeah, so it's very dangerous out there. Anyways, it's going on 3 minutes, but like I said, thoughts and prayers continue to go out to everybody affected with that. So let's get going this evening, and let's take a look at the satellite visibility loop right here. And you see this big time spin going on right here. That is basically what has been causing all this havoc with the severe weather. It's been kind of the same setup over the last week or two, where you have this broad mid trough, upper trough that's really developed here, and then what happens here is pieces of energy kind of ride the base of the trough, and that's exactly what's happening. You know, low pressure has developed, therefore it yanks this low level moisture around the surface, and then you have a low level jet kicking up around this area, and this is actually, pretty crazy to see to the actual eye. As you can tell, there's a discoloration moving in from this side of the screen, and that's because the sun is going down, so you're losing visibility here. But you can see all these clouds that really explode along this line. You see this clear air? That is dry air, more stable air, where you don't have any thunderstorm development. So, but you have big time storms developing along this line right here, where you have moisture on the east side of this dry line right here in basically the frontal passage. And then if you look right here in Alabama, you can actually look at an outflow boundary popping off here, bringing some showers and storms for you folks in Alabama this afternoon, this evening. So it's pretty, this is pretty crazy to see, on the satellite visibility here on what's going on. It really shows you as a whole what exactly is happening here. But moisture will start to build back into Texas tomorrow, and will set the stage for more severe weather. I want to show you guys, check this out. I know I showed you guys a video of Reed Timmer's video a little bit earlier this morning, but this is more video. He basically got drone footage of the Andover tornado, and I mean, I have never, and I don't think anybody ever has, seen footage like this before. So check this out. Look at this. The tornado's not huge. I heard people say it was only literally like a block wide, and it was just confirmed this is an EF3 tornado. Very small, but look how much damage it does. It's ripping houses to shreds. These are tops of houses. I mean, this is insane. I'll start it over. Look at the vortice. I mean, that's why, winds associated with a tornado are more intense than a hurricane. Hurricane is more widespread, sure, but I mean, if you are close to this spin, it is going to rip everything to shreds. I mean, so somehow, off of what you just saw, nobody died. Nobody died right here. It's a big blessing. These are houses getting ripped apart. From what I heard, this is actually a pretty new neighborhood development right here, but yeah, I mean, he got more footage too, but this is insane. I mean, insane footage. And it's a lot more clear if you actually check out Reed Timmer's YouTube video where it's in 4K, but just intense stuff, it really is. But let's continue to talk about what's going to happen over the next few days. So tomorrow, there's an enhanced risk. This is a hail-driven risk. I will mention there is severe weather possible for the eastern U.S. There's going to be storms in the southeast in general. We'll talk more about that in the morning when we give a more a larger lower 48 forecast. But there's an enhanced risk right here. This includes all the cities in western Texas like Amarillo, Lubbock, Midland, Fort Stockton, all the small towns in between, right? So what's going to happen here is you're going to have just enough moisture that rides up in this area. Supercells are likely to form probably in the far eastern counties of New Mexico, and then they're going to intensify, enter a prime environment, and with big time steep lapse rates in place right here, which means basically you have the air cooling as you go further up in the atmosphere very quickly. It's cold air aloft, which is normally what causes big time hail. There's also a lot of other dynamics that go into that. It's not just that, but there's so many things that go into severe weather, guys. But anyways, enhanced risk. This has actually been stretched a little bit further south. Tornado threat, it's a 5% risk. It will be a little bit of a low-level jet right here. It'll be a little bit of shear. But the big threat here is, yes, you have damaging winds. But the biggest threat, 30% chance of hail occurring in this red area. And I mean, you're not going to be dealing with much of a cap in place. So you're going to have multiple supercells that form. I know this isn't necessarily a highly populated area, but there's some bigger towns. Amarillo is a bigger town. Lubbock is a bigger town. Midland is a bigger town. So, I would recommend in these areas, try to park your car under something. And, not everybody has a carport or garage, but do your best to protect your belongings, pull everything inside, because if you get under one of these supercells tomorrow in West Texas, you are going to get pelted with hail, gorilla-type hail. People were laughing, but the Storm Prediction Center actually, when they introduced a severe thunderstorm watch yesterday, it was a tornado watch. They said DVD size hail possible, guys. I mean, that is huge. I've never seen them do that kind of comparison before. But hail-driven enhanced risk tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised this upgrades to a moderate risk because of hail. So the black outline area is basically saying, hey, there's also a 10% chance of there being more significant hail reaching 2-inch or diameter or larger. So it's a big deal with hail tomorrow, it really is. So let's go on and look at the latest HRRR model and see how this potentially unfolds. And we start off by probably, I would say maybe 2 to 3 p.m., maybe a little bit later, and you're already getting big-time storms firing up just north of Fort Stockton. Do not take the geographical regions I mentioned in this video as gold. This could be, this could fluctuate a couple hundred miles. But in general, they could form and start popping off as far west as the eastern counties of New Mexico. They really could. But as you get into Texas, from Amarillo all the way to the Texas-Mexico border, even in Mexico, you got supercells going off. There is going to be some big-time dangerous supercells popping off here. Not all of them are going to pose a risk for a significant tornado threat due to the lack of shear in place, but there is definitely going to be large hail probably associated with just about every supercell that can get going in this region. So please be careful out there in western Texas. I know you are accustomed to big time storms and some pretty dynamic weather, but you are not going to be on the dry side, on the stable side of this severe weather tomorrow. Multiple supercells will form along this line. There will also be a chance here in the areas of the western panhandle of Oklahoma. This will continue, and then they'll eventually, like they always do when you lose the daytime heating, the daytime dynamics, they will kind of weaken and fall apart and just, be a blob of heavy rain moving into areas of southwestern Oklahoma. But watch out. Dynamics in place. A little bit of that low-level moisture, just enough. Dew points rise briefly into the 40s and 50s, and you're thinking, well, that's not substantial, moist air at the surface for severe weather. Well, what's going on is you have so much cold air aloft, it creates the chances for large hail. Anytime you have cold air aloft, when I say aloft, I mean the upper levels of the atmosphere, several thousand feet up in the air, above our heads or where we're standing, when the temperatures drop very quickly, you normally have a large hail threat, or just a hail threat in general, which is what we call steep lapse rates. Now, is that low-level steep lapse rates, mid-level steep lapse rates? How quick does the temperature drop aloft? A lot of other things play into this too. Normally, when you do have some deep moisture in place, you have a large hail threat too. But there's so many dynamics that go into this. Just know, large hail threat is the biggest risk with this. And obviously, when the storms form, it moistens up the atmosphere, just like any kind of amount of water would do. But then the dry line really starts raging here again. This is such a crazy dry line. You go from a dew point of around 60 to dew points in the single digits in just a span of 20-30 miles. So very intense. And in response, those steep lapse rates and the little bit of moisture, but really just because of the steep lapse rates in place, so much cooling aloft so quickly, you have cape levels that rise even into New Mexico, at the surface, pushing well over 2,000 joules per kilogram. So there's juice for the storms to really get going to develop, and you're not going to have much of a cap in place, meaning you're not going to have that area of stable air aloft. I mean, it's really not. The temperature's going to drop like a rock when you go the further in the atmosphere you go. So be careful. I know not a ton of people live out here, but not a lot of people lived out in Kansas either. And that one tornado just happened to hit Andover. And luckily, no deaths occurred. But you just never know. So please be careful in this region of the country. Let's go on and talk about Monday and what we do know. An enhanced risk up for this area of pretty much the same areas we saw yesterday, just about. But it's obviously structured a little bit different. Enhanced risk, this includes Oklahoma City and Norman, and just about on the border of a slight and enhanced here in Tulsa. Wichita, enhanced risk of storms, that is a level 3 out of 5. Slight risk, including and dipping all the way down into Wichita Falls, and just stops just north of Abilene, Texas, and then it kind of comes up and then pivots like a boomerang over here in southern sections of Missouri, like Springfield and areas like that, just south of Columbia, Missouri. You guys are expected potentially to see some severe weather. And right now, it doesn't break down tornado, damaging wind, and hail threat. It just says, hey, there is a 30% chance to see severe weather 25 miles at any given point in this red area. Hatched area, that is significant severe weather, and basically a 10% chance of significant severe weather in 25 miles at any given point in the hatched region. This is even outside the 30% region. So big deal. So let's go on and try to figure out what we know about this. We'll take a look at the pivotal weather site with this and what we know going forward here. And we can only really look at the NAM. The HRRR model is just getting into the range, but it's just not quite there. Low pressure develops along this upper trough, and it's pretty, substantial low pressure. It's a deepening low pressure. And with it, you're going to have a lot of morning convection. I really think Monday morning, a lot of morning convection in Kansas, Oklahoma. Convection means storms, rain, things like that. How much can the atmosphere destabilize? I mean, it's another dynamic system. You got snow flying in daggone western Nebraska. So it's going to be dynamic if you have snow on one side of the low pressure and intense severe weather on the other side. That normally tells me that this is probably going to be some kind of negatively tilted trough that's going to form here. And then, in fact, it probably will be. And then as you're going forward here, you're getting into Monday, late afternoon, evening, and you have some storm development in this region. But it's not showing anything super discrete. It almost just shows a broken up line of severe storms forming here. But it showed the same thing last night also. It never really showed anything getting going. And, of course, we had a couple tornadoes reported. But it's going to be interesting as we get into the HRRR model if it really pops off an area of just a bunch of discrete supercells in this region. So we'll try to figure out what's going to happen. But right now, it shows a pretty intense squall line moving through overnight Monday into Tuesday morning. But the dynamics in place, a ton of surface moisture. When I say surface moisture, I'm saying dew points into the 60s and pushing 70. And here it is. We're getting into Monday morning. Here comes the atmosphere getting prime. And you see the triple point right here. Triple point meaning where the where basically the best dew points and Cape are overlapped, or however way you want to say it, are basically overlap with each other with the best kinematics, which is that wind aloft, that low-level jet. Either way, you're going to have a big-time low-level jet in this region right here, which is I'm about to show you. But look at this low-level moisture. This is some deep moisture right here. This is what kind of concerns me about this. Once you start to get dew points pushing the upper 60s, low 70s, guys, and you mix it with these other dynamics in place, I mean, you have over a 70-degree dew point registered here, according to the NAM and southern sections of Kansas, and that is widespread dew points with another dry line setting up. So it's going to be interesting also what kind of cap we have in place with any lingering stability due to the fact with that morning convection that kind of flies through here in the morning hours of Monday morning. But this is some rich moisture at the surface in these areas. It really is. So it's potentially dangerous. It really is. I mean, you got dew points getting over 70 degrees here on the Oklahoma-Texas line down here. So plenty of moisture down here, plenty of it. And then it gets beat down by the more stable air as the cold front moves through. But you look at that, I mean, and then we flip to Cape in response to all that moisture in place at the surface. And, of course, you're going to get some big-time Cape levels just like you did last night. Surface Cape reaching well above 3,000 to almost 4,000 joules per kilogram at the surface here. So you're going to have a lot of energy, but is there going to be some kind of cap in place? Is there? We're going to know more about that tomorrow, but just know the dynamics are there in this region. You got plenty of storm energy in this region right along and just east of the dry line. So you also look, and this is one thing I'm concerned about also, is the low-level jet. Plenty of low-level shear in this region. Well, just shear in general in this region. You're going to have a 40 to 50 knot low-level jet popping off in these regions of Oklahoma and Kansas, right up to the triple point where the low pressure is. So plenty of winds just aloft to really spin up these updrafts if they get going. So I expect probably by the time we wake up in the morning, I kind of expect a 10% risk of a tornado to be up for day 2, with obviously large hail probably being at 30%. But I think there'll be a 10% area of a tornado, and it could get upgraded to a 15% risk. But we got to see what's going to happen with this. We really do. But dangerous setup. Moving forward here, and I'm losing my voice as we're coming up on 20 minutes. The reason why you have all this severe weather is really for Tuesday, you have this upper trough digging into the southwest. This continues. It yanks up that low-level moisture and all those other dynamics, brings a low-level jet into areas of Oklahoma and Kansas, continues to rip up all that low-level moisture. And in response, you get the big-time Cape values and all levels of the atmosphere. That moves through, weakens, and then you have another one that digs into the region. This looks more powerful. Doesn't really dig the same way, but this almost looks like it gets into a cutoff upper low, if you will, and this yanks up a low-level moisture again and becomes another favorable setup. This looks like a little bit of a stronger, more potent upper trough that moves through here in the middle of the country. In response to that, you have a 15% risk of severe weather. This is basically a slight risk at day 5 for these areas of Oklahoma and Texas. Southern plains are just going to get threat after threat, just like Mississippi and Arkansas and Louisiana and areas of Tennessee were about a week or two ago. It's definitely the southern plains turn. Y'all are just getting hit one after the other with big-time threats here. So there's a 15% risk of severe weather at day 5. This is for your Wednesday, May the 4th. And then it doesn't really even budge due to the fact that the ejection of this low pressure really just kind of goes due north, northeast, if you will. So you kind of still just get those favorable dynamics in this region of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and then northeast Texas. So severe weather expected Thursday also. As of now, we'll see how this kind of pivots back and forth. So, yeah, it's going to be active. I know I mentioned a lot that talking severe weather is starting to get kind of old, but I do want to keep you guys updated. And as I talk and I learn more about it, But stay safe out there in the Southern Plains. I mean, South Central U.S. You guys are gonna be under the gun over the next several days, and it's still technically the changing of the seasons. Even though today's the last day of April, we're getting deeper into the warmer months of the year and hot months as we get closer to June and July. So stay safe out there. God bless. Prayers out for everybody affected last night and those 3 kids that ended up getting killed tragically. But God bless all y'all. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll have you an update in the morning.